Hi readers, me here, and welcome back to my channel. It is time for Author Spotlight, and today I'm going to put the spotlight on two of my favorite authors from childhood, Lois Duncan, who you might know from I Know What You Did Last Summer. There was a movie based on this book. And Paula Danziger, this one's a little bit older, one of her most famous works, The Cat Ate My Gymsuit. Sorry. So for this spotlight, and I will probably not do this for every author spotlight, I reread actually 5 books from the two of them, and I want to talk to you about them. First, let's start with Lois Duncan. She was born in 1934 and she died in 2016 at the age of 82. I read Stranger with My Face, reread Stranger with My Face, and I've got to say, in my opinion, this really stands up to the test of time. There are some things that date it, but I don't think they're insurmountable. There's a character in this book with a scarred face, and a friend's mother says, "He's a strange young man. He looks almost satanic." He looks satanic because he was burned in an accident and has a disturbed face. Anywho, that was Mrs. Tuttle. She's kind of a pill. Overall, I really enjoyed this reread. It's a bit of a darker book. It's about astral projection and finding out, the main character finds out she has a sister she didn't know about. Really, really love this book. I do recommend this for an older reader. I think even though this was written in the early 80s, you could look past anything that's not familiar for today. Next up, I read A Gift of Magic, and this is about ESP, who the main character has. This one read a little bit younger for me, and you can tell it was a favorite book. It's falling apart on the front and the back. This was a favorite book when I was younger. Again, this time it read a little bit young for me, but still really, really well written. Something that you may not know about Lois Duncan is in 1989, her daughter Caitlin was murdered. And shortly after that, she wrote a book called Who Killed My Daughter, and it talks about secrets that her daughter Kate had that she was hiding from the family. And Lois was desperately trying to get anything she could to find the murderer. They were convinced it was like, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there was a boyfriend that she had that may have had something to do with it, or his friends may have had something to do with it. And then I found out today that after this, I knew that she had stopped writing so much, but afterward she started to write children's picture books because she could not write any longer about young women in life-threatening situations. And I was really sad about that because Lois Duncan's books about young women in life-threatening situations are some of my favorite books to this day, to include Stranger with My Face. As I was doing the research, I use that term loosely, for this, I found out that Lois wrote a sequel to Who Killed My Daughter. I forgot the name of it already, but I don't think I will ever read that. This one was hard to read when I read it a long time ago. And actually, I cannot remember what year it was, but it was in the early 2000s. I emailed Lois Duncan telling her what I thought of her work and that I hoped she would write again. And she actually responded to my email, which made me feel so great. But of course, now I've lost that email. I don't know what happened to it. Anywho, in 2021, Caitlin's murderer confessed to her murder and the murder of, I think, 2 other women. Last month, January, he was sentenced to 45 years in jail. Unfortunately, Lois Duncan had passed by the time the killer confessed, so she died without ever knowing who killed her daughter, and that makes me really sad. However, Again, for young readers and young adult readers, I highly recommend her work. It is moving. It is thrilling. It's kind of helped me transition from teenage YA thrillers to adult thrillers. Next up, I don't have as much background information about Paula Danziger. She was born in 1944 and died in 2004 at the age of 59 of a heart attack. Sometime between 2020 and 2023, because it all seems like one year, I reread The Cat Ate My Gymsuit, and one of the things that I found about Paula's work is that it was like a lifeline to me. She came from a family that wasn't really that happy, and in this book, the father was fucking horrible, and the mother was kind of wishy-washy. My mother was not wishy-washy, but I could definitely see myself in Marcy Lewis when I read this, but I was shocked at how dark it seemed now, whereas when I read it as a teen or as a young adult, it did not seem that dark to me. It seemed more like real life. I found the same thing with the Pistachio Prescription, which I have rabbit holed here. In the first sentence talks about pistachios, red ones are her favorite, and it made me start thinking, you don't see red pistachios very much anymore. And I read an article about it, but again, I've got my brain full, so I don't remember it. But definitely a YA book. It covers the themes of first dates, first kisses, I will call it makeup mistakes. She actually plucks out most of her eyebrows trying to do something that you would do as a teenage girl. Covers divorce, suicidal thoughts, although Danziger handles that with a very light hand. I thoroughly enjoyed my reread of the Pistachio Prescription. Did not relate to Cassie so much as I related to Marcy, but that's fine. Next up, I read two books where I was just going to read one. I read The Divorce Express and its sequel, It's an Aardvark-Eats-Turtle World. The Divorce Express is about just what you think it is, divorce, and how the main character, Phoebe, commutes between Woodstock and New York City. New York City is where her mother lives, and the challenges that go along with it. Your parents dating again, learning a new school, having new friends. Thoroughly enjoyed this one. This one was told from Phoebe's friend Rosie's perspective, and Rosie's mother and Phoebe's dad get married or move in together, and things are not so happy. Turns out living with other people is hard, and Phoebe comes across as a spoiled brat in this, but I didn't dislike it. As I got to thinking about it, she's an only child, and all of a sudden she's having to live with other people and accommodate their needs. Like, Phoebe's a slob, Rosie is not, and Phoebe doesn't like Rosie having other friends or interests. So really, again, great book. I didn't like it as much as The Divorce Express, but I liked it a lot. So that's it. For my next author spotlight, I will probably not do any rereads because I've got a lot of reads I need to do. If you have any particular author you'd like me to spotlight, I think I'm going to go for an adult author or two this next time. But just let me know. That's all for me. Happy reading. Love to hear about what authors you really like.